Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are traveling back 150 million years to the Late Jurassic period. We are going to walk through a landscape that defies modern imagination. The ground here shakes with the rhythmic, thunderous footsteps of Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus, titans that strip the canopy of ancient conifers. In the ferns below, the plated stegosaurus swings its thagomizer in defense, while the terrifying roar of an allosaurus echoes off the distant canyon walls. This is the Morrison Formation, the Serengeti of the Mesozoic, a world famous for its monsters. But today, we are not looking at the giants. If you look closer, darting between the pillar-like legs of a sauropod, there is a small, agile shape blurring past. It is no larger than a Labrador retriever, feathered in the dappled light of the floodplain, its large eyes scanning for danger. It pauses, only for a heartbeat, to nip at a cycad, before vanishing into the undergrowth. For over a century, this creature was a ghost to science, a phantom, hidden in the rock, misidentified, and overshadowed by the giants it lived alongside. This is Enigmacursor, the dog-sized mystery that has finally stepped out of the shadows. In June 2025, paleontologists unveiled this remarkable new species, Enigmacursor mollyborthwickae, ending a 150-year-old cold case that has baffled scientists since the chaotic days of the Bone Wars. Its discovery does not just add a new name to the dinosaur roster, it fundamentally rewrites our understanding of the Jurassic ecosystem, proving that the world of giants was built on the backs of the small, the swift, and the unseen. To understand the magnitude of this discovery, we have to start not in a university lab, but in the dusty, sun-baked quarries of Moffat County, Colorado. The Morrison Formation is a vast geologic sequence stretching across the western United States, a graveyard of the Jurassic period that has yielded the most iconic dinosaurs in history. In 2021, commercial paleontologists from a group called Dinosaurs of America LLC were excavating a site on private land. They were likely hoping for the usual prizes, perhaps the massive femur of a long neck or the serrated tooth of a theropod. Instead, they found something delicate. Encased in the hardened mudstone was a partial skeleton of a small animal. It was a three-dimensionally preserved marvel. This is a crucial detail because most small fossils are flattened like roadkill by the immense pressure of the rock layers above them. This specimen, however, retained the volume and shape of the living creature. Initially, the fossil was put up for sale and advertised as Nanosaurus. This name, Nanosaurus, is important to our story because it represents a century of confusion. It was a catch-all name, often slapped on any small herbivorous dinosaur found in the region. For decades, Nanosaurus had been what scientists call a wastebasket taxon, a scientific dumping ground for small bones that did not fit anywhere else. The dealers, following conventional wisdom, assumed this was just another specimen of that poorly understood genus. The skeleton eventually caught the eye of the David Arron Art Gallery in London, which then contacted experts at the Natural History Museum in London. Professor Susanna Maidment and Professor Paul Barrett, two of the world's leading dinosaur experts, arrived to inspect the specimen. What they saw stopped them in their tracks. The preservation was exquisite, far superior to the fragmentary scraps that define Nanosaurus. As they looked closer at the femur and the vertebrae, they realized the anatomy simply did not match. The muscle attachments were different. The proportions were wrong. This was not Nanosaurus. This was something entirely new. Thanks to a generous donation from Molly Borthwick and her husband David, the museum acquired the specimen, saving it from disappearing into a private living room where science would never be able to study it. In 2024, it arrived in London, and the real detective work began. So, what exactly is Enigmacursor? The name itself is a clue. Enigma refers to the puzzling history of small Morrison dinosaurs, and cursor is Latin for runner. When we think of dinosaurs, we have a megafauna bias. We think big. But Enigmacursor challenges that bias. It measured approximately 1 meter, or 3.3 feet, from nose to tail. It stood about 50 to 60 centimeters, or 2 feet at the hip. In terms of build, it was gracile and lightweight, roughly the physical size of a collie or a Labrador, but with much less mass. It belonged to a group called the Neornithischians. These are bird-hip dinosaurs that include the ancestors of the famous duck-billed hadrosaurs and the horned ceratopsians that would appear millions of years later. However, Enigmacursor was a basal member of this lineage, meaning it lacked the elaborate frills or duckbills of its distant descendants. It was a primitive, foundational blueprint for that family tree. The skeletal analysis, which was published in Royal Society Open Science, reveals an animal built for survival in a hostile world. Its most defining feature is its legs. The hind limbs are elongated, particularly the lower leg bones. In anatomy, this is a classic adaptation for cursoriality, or running. We have to remember the context of its life. In a world populated by Allosaurus, a 30-foot killing machine, and Ceratosaurus, a horned predator with blade-like teeth, Enigmacursor had only one defense: don't be there when the predator arrives. It would have been a nervous, twitchy animal, capable of explosive bursts of speed to dart into the dense fern prairies. or vanish into the gallery forests lining the riverbanks. One of the most fascinating details found by Maidment and Barrett was in the spine. The neural arches, which are the top parts of the vertebrae that protect the spinal cord, were not fully fused to the centra, or the body of the vertebrae. In modern reptiles and birds, and indeed in dinosaurs, this fusion happens as the animal matures. The lack of fusion suggests that the type specimen of Enigmacursor was not fully grown. It was likely a sub-adult, a teenager in dinosaur terms. This raises tantalizing questions. How big did adults get? Was this animal near its maximum size? Or just hitting a growth spurt? To truly understand why Enigmacursor is such a massive breakthrough, we need to take a detour into the chaotic history of American paleontology, specifically the Bone Wars. In the late 19th century, two rival paleontologists, O.C. Marsh and E.D. Cope, waged a bitter feud. They raced to name as many species as possible, often rushing descriptions based on fragmentary, inadequate fossils. In 1877, Marsh named a small dinosaur Nanosaurus agilis based on a few scraps of bone found in Colorado. Over the next century, other small fossils were found and given different names like Othnielia, Drinker, and Othnilosaurus. Paleontologists spent decades arguing over these names. Were they all the same animal? Were they different genders of the same species? The fossils were mostly impressions in rock or shattered fragments, making comparison nearly impossible. The group became a taxonomic mess, a black hole of information. The discovery of Enigmacursor provided the Rosetta Stone needed to decode this mess. Because the new specimen was preserved in 3 dimensions and not flattened, Maidment and Barrett could see the true shape of the bones. They compared Enigmacursor to the original Nanosaurus fossils and realized they were distinct. More importantly, they concluded that the original Nanosaurus fossils were so poor that they were effectively useless for diagnosis, what scientists call a nomen dubium, or doubtful name. Enigmacursor allows science to wipe the slate clean. It proves that there was not just one generic small dinosaur roaming the Jurassic. There was a diversity of them. It suggests that if we look closer at the wastebasket fossils sitting in museums around the world right now, we might find even more distinct species hiding in plain sight. Now, let us place Enigmacursor back into its home to see what its life was actually like. The Morrison Formation is often depicted in art as a lush jungle, but the reality was far more complex and harsh. 150 million years ago, Western North America was a semi-arid basin. There were no flowering plants, no grass, no oaks, no roses. The ground was covered in ferns, cycads, and horsetails. Towering conifers like araucaria and pines, along with ginkgo trees, formed the canopy. The climate was highly seasonal, with a wet season that brought monsoons and flooding rivers, followed by a brutal dry season. It was a landscape of extremes. Enigmacursor would have lived on the floodplains, navigating the open fern savannas and the denser forests near the waterways. It lived in the shadow of the most famous cast of characters in fossil history. The sauropods like Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Camarasaurus, and Brachiosaurus weighed as much as 50 to 80 tons. To Enigmacursor, they would have been like moving mountains, their footsteps capable of crushing the small runner instantly. There were the armor-bearers like Stegosaurus, with its dorsal plates and spiked tail. And then, the predators. Allosaurus was the lion of the Jurassic, the apex predator. Torvosaurus was a rarer, bulkier brute. Ceratosaurus likely prowled the waterways. And Ornitholestes, a smaller theropod, was perhaps the most direct threat to a juvenile Enigmacursor. This brings us to the concept of niche partitioning. How did so many herbivores coexist without starving each other out? The giants, like Brachiosaurus, browsed the high treetops. Diplodocus likely swept its neck low to clear vast swaths of ferns. Stegosaurus browsed mid-level bushes. Enigmacursor occupied the micro-niche. It was a selective browser, using its small beak and cheek teeth to nip at high-quality, low-growing vegetation that the giants trampled or ignored. It likely ate young fern fronds, cycad seeds, and perhaps insects or small invertebrates to supplement its diet, which is common in small ornithischians. It was the rabbit or the gazelle of its time, abundant, quick, and essential to the food web. This discovery forces us to confront a major issue in paleontology called megafauna bias. The media loves a T-Rex or a titanosaur. Museums build their halls around the biggest skeletons because they draw crowds. But this skews our view of history. In modern ecosystems, small animals vastly outnumber large ones. For every elephant, there are thousands of antelopes, rabbits, and rodents. The Jurassic should have been no different, yet our fossil record is dominated by giants. The reason for this is taphonomy, the science of how fossils form. First, there is fragility. The bones of an animal like Enigmacursor are hollow and thin-walled. they snap easily and decompose quickly. The massive femur of a brachiosaurus is virtually indestructible by comparison. Second, there is scavenging. A dead Enigmacursor is a bite-sized snack for a scavenger. A dead sauropod is a buffet that lasts for weeks, increasing the chance that bones get buried before they are destroyed. Third, there is hydrodynamics. In a flood, which formed much of the Morrison rock, small light bones are washed away, while heavy bones sink and are buried. Enigmacursor is rare, not because the animal was rare, but because its preservation is a statistical miracle. Its discovery hints at a dark matter of dinosaur diversity, a massive population of small animals that we simply have not found yet. As Professor Maidment noted during the reveal, smaller dinosaurs are often left behind, meaning there are probably many still in the ground. Enigmacursor shows that there is still plenty to discover in even this well-studied region. The publication of Enigmacursor mollyborthwickae is just the beginning. The phylogenetic analysis placed Enigmacursor as a close relative of Yondosaurus, a small dinosaur from China. This suggests a pan-Laurasian distribution of these small runners. It implies that before the continents drifted too far apart, these small herbivores were migrating between what is now Asia and North America. It helps map the superhighway of dinosaur evolution in the Jurassic. Furthermore, because the specimen is a juvenile, it offers a reference point for studying dinosaur growth rates. By slicing a thin section of bone in the future, scientists could count growth rings like a tree to see exactly how old this teenager was and how fast it was growing compared to its giant neighbors. Finally, this discovery is a call to action. It is a wake-up call for commercial and academic paleontologists. It encourages field crews to stop ignoring the small stuff. In the past, small, unrecognizable bones might have been discarded as rubble in the hunt for a Diplodocus skull. Now every fragment is a potential new species. For 150 million years, the bones of Enigmacursor lay in the dark, waiting. Above it, the world changed. The Jurassic gave way to the Cretaceous, the asteroid struck, mammals rose, and eventually, humans arrived to dig in the dirt. The dog-sized mystery of the Morrison Formation is no longer a mystery, it is a window. It invites us to look past the towering skeletons of the museum halls and focus on the shadows near the floor. It reminds us that the history of life is not just written by the victors or the giants, but by the small, the scrappy, and the swift. Enigmacursor mollyborthwickae may have been small, but its legacy is enormous. It has cleaned up a century of scientific mess, linked continents, and breathed new life into the study of the Jurassic. The next time you picture the Morrison Formation, don't just see the earth-shaking Brachiosaurus. Picture the little Enigmacursor darting through the ferns, a tiny beating heart in a land of monsters. Thanks for listening to G Fun Facts Online.